Hello and welcome to Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce, where we connect with Troy Chamber members as they give us a glimpse into their company and share some of the business lessons they learned along the way. Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Thompson-Cusack, President and CEO of the Troy Chamber of Commerce, and I am joined today by my amazing co-host and Vice President of the Chamber, Sheila Denstead.
Hello, everyone.
I do get really excited every time I announce it. It's woo, yay. But first, I'd like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. Stay tuned for our very first commercial break where you can learn how you can rely on Trion. Sheila, we got a great show lined up today. Can you introduce our very first guest?
I'm very honored to. Today we're meeting with Mary Corrado, who joined the American Society of Employers in January 1990 and advanced through several positions before being appointed President and CEO in December 2002. Mary has more than 30 years of experience in association management. She's delivered numerous presentations on various human resource topics, including employee culture, employee development, and employee relations, compensation, and benefits. She's also the president and trustee of the ASE Educational Foundation and sits on the boards of the ASE-affiliated HR Management Group. Mary was appointed by Michigan's Governor Snyder to the Board of Nursing and Licensing Regulation in 2012 and served there until 2015. In addition, Mary is elected to the Troy Chamber Board of Directors in 2021. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Sheila. Thanks, Tara.
So, Mary, I think you're a true example of what hard work and perseverance does in a career. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, obviously. But can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got to the role you're in today?
Sure. And it was kind of accidental, I guess, but it's been great and a wonderful ride. So when I was a senior in college, my last year, one of my sorority sisters had indicated that her stepfather was looking for a part-time data entry person at the company that he worked for. And I was currently waiting tables. So I thought, okay, well, an office job might be something that would be a little bit more fun for me. So I started there. Again, I only had a term left of school, but I started, and my original goal was to get my undergrad. Then I was going to become a clinical psychologist. So I knew that my undergrad in psychology and sociology were just I needed to go on for more schooling to do exactly what I wanted to do. So this job was truly going to just be a way to get away from waitressing. And here I am 32 years later. But so what happened was I applied for the position. I got the job. I was working part-time. When I graduated in April of that year, they asked me to stay on full-time as an analyst in human resources. And I had taken a couple HR classes, but I didn't know much about it. And I said, sure. So I basically, learned on the job. And I was an analyst for a while, and then I moved around in the company, and I was over our surveys area. And then, pretty soon I had worked in almost every area of the company. And my president at the time was having some difficulty. This was about, year 2000. There was a little bit of recession going on. And so he went to an executive committee meeting and never came back to the office after that.
Oh.
So we were in a unique situation. We had no succession plan. So one of my colleagues was appointed interim president for a year. I happened to be pregnant with my youngest at that time. And then when I came back to work, they appointed us as co-presidents, which is a little different too, having two presidents serving about 20 employees at the time, a little difficult to handle, but we made it through. And after a year of doing that, our board of directors decided to just have one person in charge. So I was given the president and CEO position, and that was back in 2002. So it's been great. Never went back to get any clinical psychologist degree, although I will say that psychology does help me quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
In the job. I did go back to get my MBA, however, after I realized here I was in this position. I had never had an accounting class or an economy class, a marketing class. So I went back, got my MBA from U of M, and have been, working, happily at ASE ever since.
That's so insane to think that you started off just doing data And here you are as CEO, where you could have actually chosen a different path and been the best waitress ever.
Exactly. Except when those trays would fall on people and,
I think you made the right call. I think you made the right decision on that one.
Right.
Oh, yeah, coming from that background.
Yeah.
Mary, we love partnering with you and your team at ASE. Can you tell us more about what American Society of Employers, how they help companies and what they do?
Yes. So we were actually founded in 1902. So we are 120 years old, which is really exciting because not many companies can say that. We are an employers association. So we are similar to a chamber, but we have one focus, and our focus is just on human resource management practices. So we help our members in a number of ways. We have just over 700 companies. The majority of them are here in southeastern Michigan. However, we have members throughout the state as well. We cover within those members about 500,000 employees. So it's a very, very large group of employee base that we service. And our members range from Ford and General Motors and Stellantis, down to small, 10, 20 person shops. So our services really range in the area of 4 areas. We've got our recruit, which is helping members with their staffing needs, which of course right now is huge. Mm-hmm. So our recruit line does that with direct placement and supplemental staffing. Then we have our develop line, which is very important right now. And I think because of COVID, there's a pent up demand, but we offer training. And we've been doing this since 1962, especially on supervision training, supervisory training. So we're a licensed school, proprietary school in Michigan. And we offer different certifications for our training. We offer them both virtually and in person. Then we have our retain line, which right now, again, very important, is that would include engagement surveys, compensation and benefits. A lot of our members right now are challenged with, keeping their employees. So how do we pay them properly is one of the top of the list items that they're looking at. And then the last one is comply, and that helps our members. And this really became popular in the COVID days.
I love compliance. I'm the only one who loves compliance.
Yes. But, comply was really, we had to educate our members about COVID and what was going on and what the state was saying about, work from home and, and all the different laws. We have attorneys on staff that help us, and then we've got relationships with the law firms in the area as well. But this would include pre-employment checks. So we're a licensed background investigation firm. So we do background checks for our members, employees. And then we also write affirmative action plans, and we help with policy development and anything that really affects the employment law aspect of the employer's needs.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And again, I think there's numerous times that we've reached out to you just for questions sometimes, because I think with everything going on with COVID, just confusion, staffing, people are always looking to better their companies and make sure they're doing it the right way as well and taking care of their staff. And I do think you guys have so many resources that are available.
It really is a great resource, and it's quite of value. The price point isn't high at all. Mm-hmm. When we make it affordable, we are trying to help employers become better employers. So, whatever we can do to make sure you're educating your employees, you're following all the laws that you have to follow, you're compensating your employees the right way, you're providing the benefits that are needed. All of those things complete the package, and that's what we're here for. And I think, we've been in business for 120 years. So, this is what employers need, and we're providing that service.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many do you have on your team now? You mentioned you started with 20.
Yeah, and people think we're much larger than we are, and we've gone through ups and downs. And it's interesting when we go through a recession or a pandemic, as we just recently did. It seems like when the country gets a cold, we get the flu here in Detroit, and it's just been a challenge in terms of employees and and staffing, because, we're really reliant on how employers are performing, because dues are something that, as you guys know, first to go when the economy goes. So we've transitioned over the years. We've had, grant opportunities that have given us more employees. That's what we had back in 2020 when I initially stated. We actually are back to about 22 employees right now. We did take a hit during COVID. Where we had to lay some individuals off, but we've been able to bring some of those back, and we're back up to 22. So
you would never know that you don't have a team of 100 with all those folks that you have there. No, you've always been responsive and adaptive to everything we need or what our members need. Never would have. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kudos to all of you guys.
Thank you.
Let's take a quick little break and hear a word from our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. We'll be right back.
There are things you can rely on in this world, like your dog being happy to see you, coffee getting you through the day, and the government changing business regulations. And when it comes to navigating those regulations, you can rely on Trion and its team of attorneys. Trion can also tackle time-consuming HR tasks like payroll and employee benefits, so you can stay focused on growing your business. With Trion, you don't have to grow it alone. Visit RelyOnTrion.com.
You can always rely on Trion.
Welcome back to Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. We're here with Mary Corrado from ASE. Mary, a few things. Like you mentioned with COVID, obviously people, the first thing they're going to eliminate are dues to some of these membership organizations that they have. And what's interesting is I find that is one of the most important things to keep with you, because that's your access to information. And during critical times, memberships to chambers and associations and organizations like ASE is so important. What are your thoughts around that piece, and how are we working with people to make sure that they're aware?
So we've got a great team of staff at ASE, and we're about relationships. So we try and be out there. We try and that was obviously hard during COVID because obviously we were all stuck at home. But what we did is we doubled down on compliance and making sure that our members were getting the information that they needed to, stay in business. A lot of them were having to do layoffs, so we were helping them with that, helping them with, reductions that they needed to make, still providing some virtual training opportunities. So COVID did have an impact for us. It shut down several of our lines. Prior to COVID, we only did in-person training. So we had to pivot to virtual training. We also would do 5 conferences a year. Some of them went to virtual. Some of them did not happen at all. Our staffing line pretty much stopped. Our pre-employment line stopped because nobody was hiring, so there were no background checks needed. So a lot of our lines just, fell apart. But we bounced back like we have, over the years, and we're having a great year this year. I think there's some pent-up demand, and because of the Great Resignation, more and more employers need the services that we're providing.
Yeah, and that was the buzzword I was going to go towards next, the Great Resignation. What are some key facts and some advice for, I would say, companies, employers, and obviously lessons that you've learned along with this about how to retain and attract new employees after the Great Resignation?
Yeah, I think if we were to ask our members what their number 1 and 2 issues are in their workplace right now, it's not profit, it's not sales, it's recruiting people and retaining staff.
Yeah.
So I guess from my standpoint, I feel that ASE needs to be at the forefront of this because members look to us for advice and counsel. So we've implemented several things along the way that I think in the last 20 years that I've been CEO have helped us. We've got a great group of staff that's been on staff for a long time. I mean, the average tenure of my executive team is 23 years.
Wow.
That's the average tenure. My assistant has been with us, 36 years. We've got an individual at 40 years, several at 20 years, and that's just the, a core group, and then everybody else, you've got, marketing's been with us for 20 years and so forth. So it's really been, it's something I take pride into keeping our employees and coaching our employees. And some of the things that we do is we have a work from anywhere policy that we put into place after COVID, but we actually had a remote work policy pre-COVID. And our physical office is really a collaboration hub. I know you guys have been there, you've seen it. We've got a big training room. And really, if people are going to be on Zoom calls, they can be on Zoom calls at their home. But when they need to work with each other, that's when they come into the office. We have a fun committee. Last week. And these are just small little things, but I think it really says something about our culture, and but we have a group of staff members that actually serve on a fun committee. They come up with monthly activities for us to do. A couple weeks ago, we did Family Feud online virtually. It was a lot of fun, just, a ton of fun. We've done trivia. We've done wine tasting virtually. We've done luau. We've got a luau coming up in a couple weeks at one of our employees' homes. We have a bowling outing. We do a tiger game with a tailgate. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that we do. We also encourage continuous learning. It's part of everyone's goals. They need to take a training class once per quarter minimum. Communication is huge. We're very transparent. Our employees see all of our numbers. So they know when we're doing well and they know when we're not doing well. We have an entrepreneurial culture, which also helps people become more engaged because they can run their own lines and they've got a lot of autonomy to do that. And time off, I think, is one of those important things. We need everybody to take a break. And, we've got a generous holiday policy as well as vacation policy. And, we reward when we do something well or meet a goal. So, taking an extra day for 4th of July or Labor Day, things like that are things that we do. And then coaching, we have regular one-to-one meetings with our direct reports, and, they fill out forms that talk about, what they're working on, what they need my help with, how their staffs are doing. So I think all of these things help retain employees. And when we recruit employees, we're really out there recruiting. We've hired an individual that one of our managers walked into a wine store and he happened to be working there, but he had an ASE shirt on and he had been a member. And so we hired him. That was 20 years ago. And he just recently retired.
We're sad. We know who you're talking about, and we love him.
We're all sad. And then just recently, I was at a restaurant. I ran into someone that was hostessing that I had known from a previous club. And I asked her what she was doing. She said she just got her degree in human resource management. So I said, "Oh, come on, talk to me." And she starts August 1st.
Oh,
so,
wonderful.
So we really do try and look for people that, it's not just about putting the ads in, but, going out there in our networks and finding people that are a good fit for us.
Yeah. Well, and I will say it does translate. Obviously, you have fun committees and employees who've been there for 40 years, which does kind of say you're doing it right. So,
yeah.
Except for the fun stuff. I don't know how I feel. There's no fun in baseball. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Mary, you've talked about all these things. We've talked about, work at home, virtual, hybrid, all of that. How do you suggest employers go out doing that, implementing some of the things you've just talked about? What can they do to mirror that to keep folks to work on that retention side of things?
It's interesting because if you sit and you listen to a panel discussion with large employers and they'll tell you about all the things that they're doing and all the money they can put into something. I mean, small employers, like the chamber, like ASE, like a lot of your listeners, they don't have the money to do all these things. So, we can't compete with some of these bigger companies, right? So we have to find our own ways to do things. And so for us, the Fun Committee is a way. I mean, Family Feud doesn't cost anything. It's just a fun thing to do. We take a half hour out of the day. We do potlucks all the time. These are, Tiger Game's going to cost a little bit of money, but it's a great way to engage with your employees outside of the office. And now that most of us are working from home, it's a great way to do that. So, I think it's worked well for us. I do think there are things that smaller employers can do better than large employers, and there are things large employers can do that small employers can't. So we've tried to find a way to manage our conservative budget that we have. We use our members' dollars wisely, as I'm sure you do. So we want to make sure that we're doing things that have an impact.
All right. right. Well, speaking of impact and working from home, Tara, I think it might be time for your favorite segment. Did you know?
Oh, what fun thing are we going to learn about today?
Well, today I'm going to tell you about how the Troy Chamber offers over 70 events per year, including many virtual events that you can attend from home or office. To learn more about these in-person and virtual events, please go to troychamber.com/events.
See how we just incorporated all the virtual knowledge you just gave us in one did you know moment. So I really enjoyed that. Thank you, Sheila. And now I know, and you do too. Mary, you shared some great information with us. Over your 32 years in your career, what are some of the greatest lessons that you've learned? I like to ask the question, the hard ones near the end.
Right. So I remember being younger and my grandmother telling me, Mary, you can do whatever you want to do. You just put your mind to it. And, I think those words have stayed with me. And did I ever think that I would wind up running ASE at, 32 years old, having no, true business experience at the time? And, but I just recalled what my grandmother said, and then I did what I needed to do by going back to school and getting the education I needed to make sure I was successful. I'm also a great learner on the job. So, that's something that I've picked up. I've always been a hard worker and have worked ever since I was, 10, 11, babysitting. But I think probably one of the biggest things for me is continuous learning and reading. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of business books. I read a lot of fiction books now. I think COVID put me into this where I needed to kind of take a break from the business books. And so I've got some great fiction that I've read, and I probably try and read at least 2 books a month. It's hard, when you're working and such, but on planes or in between meetings or at doctor's appointments, whatever it might be, I try to bring my book with me so I can at least catch up on some reading. But I do think if you stay in the loop, believe that you can do it, stay focused, your eye on the target, and then you just make it happen.
Yeah, and I think what's so kind of cool about that, and as silly as it is, I think, and I know, Sheila, I can speak on probably your half too, we all started work early. Like it was before it was legal. Like you work. And I think those lessons you learn in your younger days of, maybe I'm just mowing lawns this day, like putting in the hard work and realizing you can actually get to that step. But I always believe starting early helps. Not waiting for your first job out of college. Like get your job before, because that's going to teach you some of just the customer service angles, the how to deal with people. And I think those are such critical skills that people need to be paying attention to.
Exactly. I mean, the interpersonal relationships, I think the psychology background really helped me out quite a bit. And I would highly encourage people, young people, to take, a couple psychology classes, because understanding how people work, why people work the way they do, is needed in the workplace. And it definitely did help me along the way in terms of dealing with my board members, in terms of dealing with my team, in terms of dealing with my members, our vendors, suppliers, you name it.
Well, you've always led with empathy as well. And I think that's such a wonderful skill. And I love seeing that, because you really do try to understand not just your members and your employees. You really do take the time. And I've always appreciated that. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mary. We appreciate you being here today and taking time out of your crazy schedule. Any last tidbit you want to leave for our members today?
Well, I want to thank you guys. This has been great and awesome. If anyone wants to learn more about ASE, they can go to our website, aseonline.org. And I highly encourage anyone listening that's not a member of the Troy Chamber. I mean, this is the gold standard. You need to be a member of this organization. And you've got a great team.
Aw, see, she just gave us our own plug. We don't even need to do it now. We could just stop. Bye. Bye, everyone. And that's all we have here today on Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. Special thanks to Mary from ASE for joining us. If you guys have any questions or interested in joining the Troy Chamber, like she said, it's the best idea ever, or joining ASE, which is also the best idea ever, please go to troychamber.com. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.